No more of that, he says. Sports Lounge 145. We'll have none of it. Charlie Hildebrand, Marcus Traxler, Nathan Stacken on deck. Travis Kriens here, getting that warmed up there. Get that Hulk Hogan punch. Hulk Hogan punch, go around 5 times. Stop. Then punch him in the face right there.
I was doing the Michigan State kicker celebration.
That's right.
Don't fuck with your leg. You can do anything you want with your arm. Vikings lose 30-13 to the Packers. Would be nice if Adrian Peterson didn't fumble with the 20. That would have been nice to see if they could have scored there, cut it to 7. Also, Ohio State lost. Terrible team loses. Good to see. Also, NASCAR, 7 laps to go. We got a heck of a battle here.
Here we go. 1 and 2 right at the top.
Kyle Busch in first. She got Kevin Harvick, at about half second or so behind, 3/10 behind here in second place. Gordon's at 6, so he's coming. 6 to go. Not enough time for him, and somehow Martin Truex got in this deal. I have no idea.
It's a miracle.
The Denver Furniture, amazing. Amazing.
They said that he led 1 lap last year. 1 lap.
That's incredible. And with this, do you like this new playoff format? They've kind of settled on this. It went through changes for a dozen years or so. It just changed every couple of years. Mm-hmm. And now it seems like they're set where they knock off 4 guys every month or so. I think this is going to be the way it's going to be for a while.
I think it's fine. It's a little contrived. Our friend David Schottenkirk has that opinion. A little contrived, but because it probably doesn't reward the best driver for the whole season, but it does make sure that there's drama to the end. There's a reason that you and I are watching it here.
Well, I don't know what they're doing in Cedar Falls. I can't speak to that, but
you and me.
Oh, you.
We can at least speak for that.
Not you and I.
I am also watching it. I have it on that channel as well.
100 million people's watching this race.
Yes. So that's good. I mean, they're guaranteed to have 4 people that are going to have a chance to win the championship every year in the last race. So I'm a fan of it. I think it's fine, and NASCAR needs as much attention as they can get. And I think their season's too damn long to begin with. But
Daytona's next week, so we got to get going here.
Speed weeks, yeah.
Right around the corner. Every sports season is too long.
That's true.
I'd say WNBA is just about right. They play about 5 games, just about right. You might like it.
American sports do American TV, where they're like, nope, we need 20 episodes every year. And you need to do it like European, British TV, where it's like, nope, only 6 episodes, but those 6 are going to be really damn good.
Yeah.
Can you ever remember a sport backing off on the schedule saying, we're going to play less games this year?
Not
college football in 2004 and 5 went from playing 12 to 11 regular season games. And then all the schools complained because they didn't get enough home games, they said. And then they jumped it back up to 12 starting in 06.
So for
that's the only example I can think of.
Good college football history right there from our noted historian.
We go to the best for that. 2.5 plus lead here. Looks like Kyle Busch is going to win the title. Busch. And he missed the first 2 weeks of the year with a broken leg, I believe. So
11.
So, he wouldn't had no chance at winning the title if they go based on points. But this is probably as close as you can get to a playoff style in NASCAR in racing. And you said sometimes maybe the best driver doesn't win, but maybe we'll have a team like a 15-1 team this year not even make the Super Bowl because maybe they're not as good as the record is because they got to actually play teams in the playoffs for once. So.
Yeah, previously the rule was that you had to drive every race in the season to be eligible for the championship because otherwise you wouldn't earn points. You'd be too far behind. But they've created an exemption that allows if somebody gets hurt. You don't want somebody hurt driving. So they've created an exemption. And, yeah, Kyle Busch missed, I think, 11 races this year, but he also won 4 races in the time that he was on the track. So he did more than a lot of guys did in 36 races all year. So a deserving champion, even if he's one that usually you either love him or hate him. That's a good NASCAR driver. So good for him.
And he's a guy. He wins a lot of races.
He does.
This is his first championship, but he wins more than almost anybody. And it was just like, is he going to actually win a championship? For God's sakes, he wins a half dozen races every year. And M&M's gets it. So
they get it.
There should be some type of promotion half off of M&Ms or some
You
damn
would
thing.
think so. He's driving the crispy M&M car. That's got to be.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yeah.
I don't follow NASCAR, but if he's clearly going to have to, like, instead of dumping champagne, dump, like, a huge glass, like, do the Kevin in the Office thing where he sees how many M&Ms he can get in his mouth.
I think, Carl Edwards does the backflip. And Tony Stewart, when he wasn't so old and fat, climbed the fence. I think Kyle Busch's thing is he kicks a football. So I don't know if I read something about that on Twitter.
When did this happen?
I don't know, but I don't know where he kicks it or how far he kicks it or what's his deal. But I think that's something he's going to do here.
I want to see how long they
Hashtag
stay
doing the
with
reef
this.
and wrath.
That's about right.
Reef and wrap.
Wide right. I want to see how long they stay with this here because we're at 5 minutes.
Looks like they're bailing right now.
I mean, you got 5 minutes here. Get a couple minutes of commercials in. Wait until 7. You got to see something on here. Don't kick it to the other network.
How pissed off is Bob Costas right now?
I don't care.
He flew all the way to wherever the goddamn game is this week, and he's been robbed an hour of airtime.
You can talk about guns at halftime. I don't care.
The other point I would make about Kyle Busch is this dude drives everything. Drives the trucks, drives the shitty Xfinity series, the old Busch series.
Trucks, yeah.
He'd drive goddamn go-karts if that was a series.
He was at Houston's here last week. He was at Houston's.
He was at Houston, Badlands Speedway.
Nope.
So boxing always talks about the best pound-for-pound fighter, so you're saying he's the best pound-for-pound racer?
I would say.
It's interesting how a guy gets older like Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon, one of the all-time greats. His final race, and he won 10, 12 races a year for a couple years there, and that's very good. And the older you get, didn't quite win championships there at the end. Ended with 4, and it's just interesting how in a competition like that, a sport like that, where like the older you get, you kind of drop off. Like, why is that though? What is your reaction time slower, or what is it when it's a lot of it's based on the vehicle?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's proven that your reaction time's a little slower. You got to be pretty damn strong and in shape to be a good driver. And so when you're getting close to 40, or I don't know how old Gordon is, 43 maybe?
About 45, yeah.
There. Yeah, I mean, you're just not going to be as physically fit as you were 20 years ago. And so, but if you're a driver, there's only 43 cars, and some of these guys don't drive every week, so there's really 35 spots where if you get one of those spots, you're holding on to it pretty damn tight, and you want to do it for as long as you can. Gordon's made a lot of money doing it, and I can see why you wouldn't want to give it up. You want to do it for as long as you can.
I'm speculating. I would also imagine for some of the guys that are really good, if you've won a whole bunch of big races and you've won multiple championships and you're 41, like, are you going to have the same drive as the 27-year-old who's still trying to win the first one when like, I can do this and I'll still have a chance to win? Or do I want to do the, Tiger Woods circa when he was 28 and devote every waking second to that?
And there are some instances. I mean, you can be competitive well into your 40s in the deal here, like he was this year. Jimmy Johnson, kind of a late bloomer, mid to late 30s, reeling off the titles. Maybe Jimmy Johnson's run 5 in a row he won.
Yep.
Maybe that deal's done. So Tony Stewart.
I think he was probably one of the reasons they changed the format. And he was just rattling them off, and that gets pretty old.
And Tony Stewart, he was the guy that won a title and hasn't really done a lot here since he's gone away from Joe Gibbs. So, final race for Jeff Gordon. I think he's being an announcer now. Heard him a couple times. He's pretty good at that.
Yeah.
So that'll be good there. Have we up the NASCAR talk? Is this the all-time record? Looking at your record.
This has got to be it. This has got to be a record. How far into the show are we? 10 minutes?
I mean, if we're honest, I don't remember talking about NASCAR Sports Lounge or Sports Block, period, ever.
I'm sure Daytona 500 we talked about it.
Just make a pick.
We did.
Dick Trickle.
Make a pick.
Sterling Marlin, go. And they just kick NASCAR right off the air immediately. Like, oh, this is the end of the race. All right.
Goodbye.
See Cincinnati get their ass kicked. Good.
See you later, passion projects. Bring in the moneymaker.
I do. NFL, Vikings lose at home, 30-13, had opportunities. Offense didn't do much. Had a costly fumble there by the running back late in the game. Could have scored a touchdown there at the 20-yard line, looking like a pretty good drive, and would have cut it down to a touchdown lead in the fourth quarter. That would have been exciting, but he fumbles for his sixth time this year. Offensive line wasn't very good as usual. Running game went back to the way it was the first month, where the child beater couldn't get 50 yards. Takeaways from that game: Green Bay, 3 losses in a row, and now they are tied for the division lead and hold the tiebreaker.
Shitty game. Very shitty. I thought the way it was being played early, Vikings obviously, I felt like they were fortunate to force 3 field goals out of Green Bay early on, and then they got that touchdown late, and Vikings just weren't moving the football. To me, the big takeaway was the offensive line. Coming into this game, they hadn't allowed a sack in a month. Is that right?
Is that what they said?
I saw that on Twitter, and then today
Hard
there
to
were
believe.
6. There are at least 6 sacks today, if not 7 or 8, and I turned it off with about 8 minutes left in the game. I was done with it. It was a lost cause at that stage. So, and just Rodgers didn't even really pick them apart today, but it was still frustrating. Frickin' James Jones. I mean, guy tried and true. He went somewhere else, couldn't do anything, and he is plugged into the Packers offense, and he's works just fine. So that's kind of tiresome. And I mean, Rodgers is good. We know that. We like him here in the lounge, but
I like him.
That was a real big missed opportunity today. If you want to take the division, if you want to maybe be a team that gets that number 2 seed or something in a relatively open NFC, that was a chance. But hopefully they can put themselves back into form, because they have to be pretty good these next 6 weeks or so.
Atlanta next week, they concern me zero shits. I don't give a shit about Atlanta. I hope they don't even make playoffs. I mean, yes, you're an awful
that game
team.
Home?
No. They're an awful team.
Yeah, then I don't know if they're awful, but they're not.
You
good.
lose to San Francisco, you lose to the Colts, you're a shit team. That's all there is to it. What did they lose? Saints or somebody else?
Yeah, I just don't brim with confidence though with the Vikings right now. I know it's
It's one game.
Maybe I'm a prisoner in the moment, one game, but I'm just like we got to be better. You got to be better next week, and I'm sure they will be. But man, that was a letdown.
Charlie,
and I did.
Okay. Charlie, diagnose Marcus's deal here. One game. It was Green Bay, his game that you'd like to win. Or 10 out of the last 11 Green Bay's won. That one game the Vikings won was to get in the playoffs. It's been since Favre since they've beaten them. And then on top of that, offensive line wasn't good today. What is it about losses where it's like, if you win, people really don't care what happened and all the negatives, but if you lose, goddamn it, every little thing, like, well, this is awful, this sucked. Well, those things sucked when you won, but you won. Now because you lost the game by, 2 points, well, this is awful and you're garbage.
Yeah, that's something I've noticed over the last
but they didn't lose
5 to 10 years.
2 points.
Well, and not only that, but like how about this? The Les Miles deal. I know that they lost to Alabama by a couple touchdowns. They've lost 3 in a row, so they go from the number 2 team in the country. They probably won't even be ranked this week. I don't know what the poll said today, but Les Miles, got to go. Hot seat next year. If you don't win the fucking national championship next year, got to get rid of them. It's like, well, Jesus Christ.
You bring up an interesting point, because like with LSU, it's like, oh well, all they can do is run it, and if they can't run it, they're screwed, and their quarterbacks are bad. And it's like, well, that was the case. That's been the case other than Zach Mettenberger's senior year. That's been the case for 5 years now. But you bring up a good point that whenever teams lose, everything's magnified, and the stuff that sort of bothers people really bothers you if you lose. And for a lot of people, they just don't care or put on rose-colored glasses if they win. I'm not saying that that's specifically targeted at anyone. I think that's just a common thing that there's people in all fan bases that do. And I know I mean, just in regards to the Vikings today, I think Traxler summed it up pretty well earlier. I think the only thing I'd add from a non-Vikings fan perspective is that the Packers, despite losing 3 straight, I mean, they're still pretty good. And whenever you get a team, cliched here, or this is definitely cliche
Backs
talk,
against the wall.
when a team's backed into a corner and they're good, that's not good. If a shitty team's backed into a corner, it doesn't matter. But when somebody's good and they want to make sure that they have a chance to keep winning, that sometimes isn't good. And I think that may have played at least a small part in the game today.
What I would say is if you're a Vikings fan and you're looking at this matchup, because I did on Thursday or Friday, looked at the Packers, I'm like, their offense isn't doing anything. Their offensive line's pretty shitty. Defense, I don't know. Defense is, if you're a Vikings fan, you're like, yeah, we can win that game. Packers fans had to be saying the same thing. I don't know. I mean, the defense pretty good, but I don't know. We got Rodgers. He'll get it back together, and you figure, well, Vikings pass defense has probably been better than their run defense this year, so we can run on them, and they did. That may have been maybe the biggest surprising thing is that the Packers got their run game going today. With Eddie Lacy just sort of sparked to life, and he's made a pretty good habit of beating up on the Vikings in his short career. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, I completely agree that it's one of those games where you'd like to win it, and the season's not over, obviously, but it wasn't that inspiring of a performance, and I felt like the Vikings left quite a bit on the table today.
In sports, it always sucks when you convince yourself you can win a game, and then you basically sort of get blown out. Now, 17 might not truly be being blown out, but like losing by 17 in the NFL is like losing by 28 in college football. And when you think, whether it's a game you can truly win or not, and I think the Vikings could have won today, but obviously didn't. But when you convince yourself we can win this game and it should be a good game, and you just kind of get beaten every facet and it's not that great, it's just really frustrating and annoying.
I would say your conversion's pretty good. 17 in the NFL, 28 in college. I would say it's like a 2-0 win in soccer. A blowout. A borderline blowout.
Or a 4-run win in baseball.
That's right. 17 point. It was a deal where the Packers were pretty much in control the entire way, but if dipshit doesn't fumble there, they can score a touchdown. It's a 7-point game in the fourth quarter, and that's really all you ask for. Well, like every football game ever played, 1 or 2 plays here, and it's a touchdown game in the fourth quarter. Did like Kyle Busch kind of chugging on the M&Ms, just opened up a pack of M&Ms, downed them right away. That was good. Monster Energy as well, just kind of doing not quite the Stone Cold deal, but Monster Energy, a big sponsor as well, so doing that pretty good. Interstate Batteries, you got Pedigree dog food. He hasn't done that yet. That sucks. Snickers. Goodyear tires, all this other shit. So there we go.
I don't know why they haven't dumped a pallet of Interstate car batteries on his.
That's fine with me.
From 10 feet above.
Someone pouring battery acid all over yourself after a win, that'd probably be fun.
You'd be a real tough guy.
It tastes like alkaline.
they haven't hit him with full-sized Snickers candy bars from 50 feet away.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but Sal Perez is the toughest man alive, and he drinks battery acid for lunch. So.
Quick side note on throwing Snickers. Did anyone see that in the Wisconsin-Northwestern game that Wisconsin fans were throwing snowballs at their own cheerleaders, and they had to go inside for a while?
Get them off the field. They don't belong on the field. You're wasting your time, cheerleaders. You're wasting your goddamn time. Nobody cares. Question, so I can go away for 20 seconds. I think my most disappointing team this year is San Diego Chargers. 2-8. Getting run off the field by Kansas City. 2-8. What say you about the Chargers?
I had San Diego making the playoffs. I think in our preseason NFL picks, I think I had San Diego winning the NFC West. So I would clearly have to say, to me, San Diego is the most disappointing team in the NFL.
Disappointing because they're not in the NFC West, right?
They're AFC West. Correct. Definitely walked right into that one.
They're not in the NFC West yet. When they move to LA, they very well could be if they share that stadium with the Raiders. But I suppose it'll.
Sorry,
have to
Freudian slip on my part.
That's fine. I just figured we have to correct the record, and I think they're definitely. I would probably say, even though a lot of the hype was not warranted, I would say one of the disappointing team probably Philadelphia Eagles, because
That sucks.
there was tons of potential there. That's not that good of a division. I mean, at least with the AFC West, Denver. I mean, even with all their quarterback debacle, that they're going to be at the top of the division. That NFC East was wide open.
And I mean,
I think you could probably throw the Dolphins in too, but I mean, even I didn't follow all the preseason NFL stuff that much, but I seem to remember even before the season started talking about the Dolphins that there was always like they could be better and they should, but there was always like that little hint of like, but I don't know if they're going to win the division because of the Patriots, so maybe they won't.
yeah, I would, Mr. Stacken, I was saying 2-8 San Diego, my most disappointing team.
I don't think I can go that route just because they have been ravaged by injuries. That's the disappointing thing, I think, with them. Let me just peel on through here. But I guess you could use the same argument for Baltimore. I mean, Baltimore to me has got to be terrible. Indianapolis, they probably could fit that bill as well. I would probably lean, or Philadelphia. I mean, Philadelphia doesn't have any excuse. Sam Bradford was hurt today, and they got trounced by the Buccaneers. So, go figure. I'd lean towards the Eagles, the Colts, or the Ravens.
I think
the only reason I haven't said the Eagles or the Colts is it is still realistic that they could win their divisions and make the playoffs.
True.
Whether it should be that way or not.
The Ravens were not, I would say, the favorite in their division. A lot of people like the Steelers, a lot of people like the Bengals. So I mean, not saying they definitely have been ravaged by injuries. I mean, all the guys they've lost for the season are legitimate players, guys that they were counting on for any amount of success. And I don't know what is their record, like 4-5?
3-7.
3-7.
Okay.
Joe Flacco out for the year, torn ACL.
Justin Forsett out, broken arm.
I would say Baltimore Ravens fit into my category of team that loses all the close games.
Well, they said something about how every game this year has been within 8 points, and that was the case again today.
That's correct. They lost at Arizona by 8, and if you do not count that game, and you do not count the game at Denver to start the year where they lost by 6, 8 of their 10 games decided by 5 points or less. 7 of the 10 decided by 4 or less. They could have literally won or lost all of them. They've lost the majority of them. So.
Bad.
Not good. Stacken, thoughts on the Viking game, 30-13 loss. Green Bay controlled most of the way, but if dipshit doesn't fumble there in the fourth quarter, maybe they score and make it a touchdown game in the fourth quarter. And if it's a touchdown game in the fourth quarter, you got a chance.
Yep, 0. The key stat, I think, for me is that the Packers had 0 sacks in their 3-game losing streak, and today they had 6. The offensive line couldn't protect Teddy at all. Matt Khalil was especially atrocious. I don't know if a lot of it had to do with his toe injury, if that's why he was just a little more limited. So I'll maybe give him a little bit of a slide. He still wasn't good. Teddy's got to get rid of the ball a little faster, though. To me, hangs on to it a little bit too much. And this is a Vikings team who led the league in fewest penalties. I mean, they were the least penalized team coming in to today, and 8 penalties, 110 yards. You just can't do that, not against Aaron Rodgers. And James Jones killed him. That drive alone, after the Vikings had made it 19-13, he makes that ridiculous juggling catch, and then Terrence Newman inexplicably leaves him alone in the back of the end zone. Stupid.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah, Stacken had the correct stat that I had wrong. That the Packers hadn't had a sack, rather than the Vikings not giving up a sack. So I had misread that. But to me, it was more about that drive after the Vikings had cut the lead down to 5 or 6 points, 19-13, and they had the 3rd and 6 right at the end of the quarter where they could have gotten a stop and had 2 guys reasonably close on James Jones. He still hauls it in. And and then that touchdown catch where as I mentioned in the open, very frustrating that James Jones is not a competent wide receiver, good wide receiver with anybody else other than the Packers. So he was
a couple other things.
He was at FedEx at the beginning of the season, turning in a employment application, and now he's back as the starting wide receiver for the Packers. So,
couple other things stand out to me. Anthony Barr jumping off sides on the Packers' first or second possession of the game. That's stupid. Of course, Aaron Rodgers is going to try and get you in draw you off sides with a hard count. Why are you even going after him for that? So that was dumb. And then I don't get what Zimmer called there at the end of the first half, having 5 guys at the goal line. Why don't you blitz Aaron Rodgers? He doesn't have the ability, he hasn't shown it, to be able to throw it, and you just let him go right in the zone. It reminded me of cover 2. And you know how much I hate cover 2.
Oh, those are strong words from you, because I know how much you hate cover 2.
But that's
cover 2 zone, cover 2 man, or both?
Anything.
I fucking
Stacken just doesn't like having 2 safeties deep ever.
What about cover 1 robber if we're playing Madden?
I will take
cover 1,
robber,
cover 3, cover 4, blitz. That's it. Only options for Stacken.
I do like man cover 1.
What about the 46? You like the 46? Go 46.
I do, if Rob Ryan isn't calling it.
Okay. I believe they're the only team ever in the history of football to run a 4-6 ever, because that's just the way it goes. Linville Joseph.
Pretty dumb defense.
Yeah. Linville Joseph. Roughing the passer call. Takes points off the board there.
I thought it was a good call.
I thought it was a bullshit call. It was a late hit, not a vicious hit, but the lateness of it was what cost us.
Yeah, it's a late hit. You got to call it. I don't know. To me, it's the quarterback. You can't hit him 2 seconds after he lets the ball go. That's just the rule, and he should know that. No, it wasn't a vicious hit, but he pushed him down, and that's the rule. To me, it's as cut and dried as any call this season.
It was, and I don't know if Joseph realized it on the play, but either he was held or 2 other guys were held. There's a penalty flag there. Just let Rodgers throw it. You don't need to get an arm in there, because then it would have been 3rd and 14. Instead, it wipes it out, and now it's back to a 3rd and 4.
Yep.
That's dumb. You have to realize what's at stake, or what's going on around you. If you didn't see the penalty flag, that's fine. It was a ticky-tack call, but I think I agree with Marcus. One that has to be made, especially if you're Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady. You get those calls 99 times out of 100.
If they go 3-3, they go 10-6. I think that's then they get in the playoffs that way.
Falcons ain't doing anything, so.
Falcons are an embarrassment to life. If you have to win 2 games the rest of the way, they need to beat Atlanta and Seattle. Those are the teams chasing you. You need to beat them. Seattle, you need to put them away. They are Kansas City. Put these effers away now.
Don't let them get to their bullpen.
They're on the brink. This is the 7th inning. It's a 3-2 game.
You gotta take them for 7 runs here when you get the chance. Let's do this. And
also going back to the Eagles, I gave Chip Kelly the benefit of the doubt. Sam Bradford's awful. He's awful. At least Nick Foles, who's been awful in St. Louis, at least he was good in Philadelphia. So, pretty awful quarterback, Sam Bradford.
Well, and how stupid does Sam Bradford look for not taking the guaranteed contract or the contract extension in the offseason, betting on himself? But then again, he does look better than Mark Sanchez. So
we interrupt
physically or as
football talk. We interrupt this football talk to tell you that Kyle Busch's young son tried to eat the microphone. NBCSN. So good job by that little kid. Just
how young are we talking?
Right on the mic, right? And there's slobber on it. It's visible. Very good.
Are we talking like 6 months or 3 years here?
I think he's less than a year old. I think he's.
It's fine. It's good. It's fine.
Yep.
Shame that Jeff Gordon didn't win it.
For some reason, you said kid. So I'm glad I didn't say any of my inappropriate jokes if the kid's that young.
I'm still waiting for the Dust V tweet to make it official. Jeff Gordon retirement. Congratulations.
Congrats to Jeff Gordon. Yes.
Cowboys are 3-7. Stacken, I think last week you said they're still in the deal. I think they are still in the deal.
They are 2 games back. They don't have to play the Eagles anymore. They don't have to play the Giants. All you have to play is the Washington Racists. So I think I like where they stand. However, might I just go out and predict? I've offered predictions before, but I will say the Panthers on Thanksgiving Day.
I agree with you there.
You wouldn't be surprised.
There you go. There you go.
I would be surprised if Carolina.
Hell, the Packers will probably, or the Cowboys will probably open as 3-point favorites over Carolina.
Yeah, pretty much you got to win that game because you're at you play Washington twice. You're at Green Bay. That's not looking real good right now. And you're at Buffalo at the Jets. So 3 games left. Probably got to go 5-1. So probably lose to Green Bay
right now.
8-8. So what they do with the Giants here? They split with the Giants. So whatever the hell that tiebreaker is there.
They split with the Eagles too.
They split 8-8. Everybody's 8-8. Everybody's 8-8. I would love that to see what the tiebreaker is.
I have to leave fairly soon, so is it possible we cover the SDSU-related sporting events from yesterday and today?
Football talk wrapped up. College football on the way. SDSU football loses. Western Illinois double overtime, 30-24. They don't get a top 8 seed. They don't even get a home game.
Bullshit.
They go on the road at Montana. Before we get to Mr. Stacken's vicious thoughts, what's the bid process for this deal here, Mr. Traxler?
I seem to remember, it's been a long time since I looked it up, and I didn't do it today, but I think the minimum bid for a first-round game is like $30,000, and then I think it goes up about $10,000 for each round after that. So if you're in the second round, 40, quarterfinals 50, and semifinals I think are 60. At one point, I think it was that way. It very well may not be that way anymore. I'm of the belief this is fairly conspiracy. It could be conspiracy.
I believe it.
You could say it's a conspiracy, but I think SCSU put in the minimum bid of $30,000 because they knew they weren't going to draw a ton of people, but they wanted to at least make an effort to get a home game. But you're not going to outdraw Montana. You're not going to outdraw a lot of the teams that they could have potentially faced. Maybe Montana is the only one that would have outbid them, but I think they knew that they weren't going to have a big crowd, and they probably were going to lose money on the game. It doesn't make any sense to put down a bigger bid than you have to. So I'm going to guess that they bid the minimum on the first round game, and I'm sure they thought they would be playing. They wouldn't be playing. I think they thought they'd be playing a second round game because the bids were due, I think, last week. So I think they missed the boat there, but the team didn't get it done on the field. I think that's probably the biggest factor there.
Do you have 5 minutes, 10 minutes? What do you have left?
Probably like 10, 15 minutes. I just want to make sure I got to this.
Stacken.
Well, what time did I know they pushed the game back from 1 to 2:30 due to weather-related stuff? What time did SDSU get to Macomb?
It was like, I think it was like an hour and a half or 2 hours before the game actually. I think.
So when did they fly into Peoria and then drive the hour? Like midnight hours, whatever.
I think they got to Peoria at like midnight and decided to stay there, and then the next morning we're going to get up and go to Macomb, and then they got stuck in traffic. And so I think they probably got there at like 11:30 or
we should never use it as an excuse. But how much of a fact did the travel-related issues have to do with this with the way they played? And again, maybe it would be completely different if Paris didn't fumble it on the 2.
Well, I think the fact that it went to double overtime and the fact that they traveled all day Friday and up to the game Saturday, then I think it had some effect. If it would have been just if they could have won the game in the first half or in the first 3 quarters, obviously it wouldn't have been a factor, or if they would have just been blown out from the start. But because the game drug on, and I only saw the overtime part of it, watched online, but I saw that they just looked sluggish. They didn't look like a team that was, really in the game. So
I was surprised they were not I'm not surprised they're not a top 8. I'm surprised they're not at home. And if they did that, then
top 8 teams get a bye, correct?
Yep. And a home game.
They should have gotten they should have gotten a bye.
It'd be interesting to see what the bid process was. If they low bidded it, then the fans don't care because they're not going to show up to the game anyway. So who cares?
Well, the only thing I would say is that I know I said it last year when they ended up playing NDSU in the second round, is that they had to win. You got to win one more game if you want to avoid this situation, and they didn't really do that. I think they still had 3 losses. They had a bad loss to Western Illinois, even though Western Illinois made the tournament 6-5. That's just not a good loss. So. And you beat the number 2 team in the country, so you should have had a pretty good argument.
And FCS win?
FBS win, yeah. I think there's bigger issues with what the selection committee did outside of just SDSU. I mean, one of the big ones being putting all 5 Valley teams on the same side of the bracket, and also leaving out UND, who beat the number 6 seed in the tournament, Portland State. I think they might have beaten Southern Utah, who was also the automatic bid person, and they beat Wyoming. I realize Wyoming is as bad as Kansas is, but that's an FBS win. So it didn't seem like they really gave a damn about FBS wins unless it was convenient. I mean, that's why the Citadel got in yesterday, because they beat South Carolina. But I don't know. I just have a lot. To me, it's not a coincidence. 3 straight years, SDSU has now gone on the road and played at a Big Sky school. And I don't know. It just seems like
regional have anything to do with that? I mean, regional stuff here.
Yeah,
I mean,
that has to be the reason why. But it's just like, well, Western Illinois is the last team one of the last teams in the tournament. They're 6-5. They're going to play a 10-1 Dayton team that they're going to kick the shit out of. They should beat them by 14, 20 points, no problem. Why isn't Dayton coming to SDSU or coming to Sioux Falls?
And send Western to Montana. Send Western Illinois to Montana. That makes a lot of sense to me. Charlie, this is based on like a regional deal here. I think it would make more sense to do just a straight-up bracket, 1 through 8, 1 through 24, play it off. But because of money issues, it's got to be regional. I mean, is that worth the money issues to save a few bucks here?
Yeah, I think I agree with you that they should just seed it. Do it how college, but to say if you don't want to do 1 seed, you can have however many 1 seeds you want, but just decide this is who's in, these are the buys, here's who's going based off how we're seeded.
Rank them.
Not.
I didn't see the final.
Because I mean, Dakota State, that's like not really.
I mean, Montana's not close to South Dakota State. I mean,
I think the NCAA thinks they are. I mean
they're border buddies, but they're not close. It's 8-9 hours away.
That's why they played Montana State last year. I mean, they figure, well, they're as close as anybody's going to be.
Unless you can drive there, what the hell does it matter? If you have to fly somewhere, what's the difference between flying to Montana or coastal Carolina? What's the difference between flying to Texas or South Carolina? If you're flying, if it's not a drive, I mean, NDSU is a drive. You can drive there. I mean, that's the only team South Dakota State can play in this goddamn. Maybe Northern Illinois, they can drive there if they want. But outside of those 2 teams, you got to fly everywhere. So this travel thing, I don't know how much money they're saving because you have to fly everywhere. What does it matter if you're flying 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever?
Their rule is 400 miles. So if you're within 400 miles, you got to take a bus. And if you're more than 400 miles, you get a plane. And yeah, Northern Iowa and NDSU are the only 2 teams. Maybe North Dakota, but North Dakota would have played if they would have made the tournament. Would have played at SDSU if they would have met. It's just poor planning, and I would be interested in the instance of using the NCAA basketball tournament as an example. I'd like to see the 1 through 24 seed list here. How'd they have the 24 teams ranked? Because I'm going to guess that a lot of those teams are on one side of the bracket. And with all due respect to Western Illinois, they're probably the 19th best team in the tournament. Dayton's probably 24th, but those 2 teams are playing each other in the first round. And you look at, there's just all these shitty East teams you look at the bracket. I want to look at the last 3 or 4 brackets. It's bracketed the same way. It's the same shitty matchups between teams of teams that just are not going anywhere. And they very well should be coming out to South Dakota, playing North Dakota State. If you're North Dakota State, you're not thrilled with this either. There's a chance they'll play a Valley team in every round before they get to Frisco if they get that far. They could have to play SDSU. They could have to play Northern Iowa in the quarters, and then they have to go to Illinois State. And
Go
that's
Redbirds.
That's not what they want to see. And, I mean, I shouldn't be surprised. It's one of those things where by this point,
Stacken's never surprised. God damn it!
I should have learned by now. I should know better by now. But after 5 or 6 years of following this, it's the same thing year in and year out.
And you're right. It is essentially a regional tournament. Like the best team coming out of the South, the best team coming out of the East gets to take on the winner out of the North.
This is the NCAA basketball tournament in the 60s and 70s. Is what this is.
It is. Yeah.
This is what we'll do this year again. I'll fill out a bracket when March Madness comes around. We'll do it regional teams like I did last year.
That's good.
Well, I would have been fine.
I think sports-wise, like the best thing is you want to make everything, and I think that the 1AA or the FCS, how they come up with it, I mean, there's a lot of reasons it's wrong. I think it's just all, and I think in most things in life, the simpler you can make it. And I just even use in college basketball because that's one of the easiest. Where it's just like, yep, if you win your conference, you get in. If you don't win your conference, maybe you'll get in, maybe you won't. You better win a lot of games, though.
I would like to get Marcus's thoughts on the Notre Dame game yesterday before he goes.
Notre Dame?
On the SDSU Notre Dame game.
Oh, yes, we will do that. Final thought here. I mean, Western to Dayton, that's a flight. Southern Utah to Texas, Sam Houston State, that's a flight. So what are we saving here, for Christ's sake?
I think Sam Houston State has gotten that particular game in that particular spot of the bracket like 3 times in a row now, where they played somebody that's not regional, not close to them at all. I don't know. It just seems like I have to sit down and actually look at it, but it just seems like they're plugging the same holes year after year. They're just we'll put the Northeast champ here. We'll put they're going to play an at-large team that's somewhat close. I don't know. It's just whenever they get rid of the organization, they'll have a tournament worth my time, I think.
There's a lot of frequent flyer miles that are being left open now.
I would like to look at miles for first-round matchups, since that's a deal. And I would like to look at past brackets to see this Missouri Valley 4 or 5 teams on one side, see if that's a thing that's never been done or it's been done a couple times. And I mean, would it really be a crime if you switch North Dakota State with McNeese State? McNeese State undefeated at 4, and NDSU with the loss at 3. I mean, would anybody have trouble if McNeese was 3 and NDSU was 4?
No. Chris Kleiman, the coach at NDSU, said today that he thought 2, 3, 4, Illinois State, NDSU, McNeese could have been any of those 3 spots. They each could have been any of those spots. So he didn't have an issue with it. And, I mean, that is one of the bigger takeaways of this whole tournament, if you look past these perceived slights, is that NDSU is going to have to probably play a road game if Illinois State keeps winning. And that would be great.
In women's basketball action, Notre Dame, 3rd-ranked team in the country, national title winner, 5 straight Final Fours, went to Frost Arena. They won by 11. Good game, fairly competitive game, 3-point lead for Notre Dame at the half. NDSU led for large portions of the first 2 quarters. SDSU, whatever the hell I said. 3rd quarter was the difference. I was fairly impressed with South Dakota State's play versus a top 5 team.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I noticed right away, Kriens and I were both there, is that how hard SDSU had to work to get baskets. I mean, with North Dakota, with North Dakota's size defensively, with Notre Dame's size inside, that makes it hard. You can't, SDSU. Probably, where those little lobs were available or where a skip pass is usually available against a Summit League team or even a mid-major team that's about their skill level, those plays are open. Against Notre Dame, they're just not. You got to work really hard. You got to box out. You got to get positioning. And sometimes they had that in the first half. They had some pretty nifty plays that got people open and they got good shots. But you just have to really work hard. And Notre Dame wore them down. I think that's in the third quarter there was a little bit of an opening where Notre Dame started knocking down some shots. SDSU wasn't getting their shots. They were getting pounded on the boards. I think we counted that it was 15-3 on the glass in the third quarter. So then that was the difference. They played fairly evenly again in the fourth quarter. But Notre Dame's a good team. Notre Dame is a Final Four team. Kriens is on record. He thinks he'll be back here in March to play for a trip to the Final Four. So I look forward to that. I think it's a great test. I think it's a good thing.
Anybody else have thoughts on that game?
I didn't. I unfortunately was in the cities and don't get Midco, but I was following it on Twitter, and I was really curious to hear what the attendance was. I saw it was 5,500 plus. What did you guys take from the crowd perspective? Really into it, it sounded like. Were you fairly impressed with the SDSU contingent?
We made our prediction because we like to make predictions. What would I say, like 4,500, 4,000? I thought it was basically sold out. It was the largest regular season crowd they've ever had.
And there wasn't many open spots.
No.
I
How
thought
many did Notre Dame bring?
they had plenty. They had more than I expected.
They had 4,000 people.
I
don't know. I didn't see many, but I don't know.
They probably didn't have more than a couple hundred, but it was still more than I expected.
Yep.
And that was kind of surprising. I thought it was a pretty tame crowd. They weren't really into the game, but that's SDSU. You got a lot of old codgers. So
I think the thing that generated the most buzz, though, was Muffet McGraw.
Look at Stacken. Look at him keeping up.
Good to know that you caught word of that.
I did. I was following along. I know, Traxler, you said you didn't have a problem with it. I know Matt Zimmer from the Argus Leader kind of did, just because he thinks that SDSU fans want that respect from the big power teams. I guess you thought it was cool, though, right?
Well, so what happened is the game's ending, and Notre Dame brought the ball into their half of the court and just ran the clock out last 25 seconds. Everybody's, applauding because it was a good effort from SDSU, regardless of how the outcome came out. And they shake hands, and it, just seemed like the game was going to end like normal. And then McGraw grabs the mic and says, just wanted to thank the crowd and what a great atmosphere for women's college basketball. You guys have a great team here. And I think she said, a lot to be proud of. I'm probably leaving out a couple things, but that was the gist.
What was it? A 15 seconds? It was 10 seconds, maybe? 15 seconds?
Long. Yeah, she just did it. And then some people applauded. It's not like anybody booed her. And
it's a class act.
Yep.
The first thing that came to my mind is I'm like, they're going to schedule another home and home. Like, this is going to happen again. I told Kriens that right away. I'm like, that sounds like she's signed.
That was my follow-up question. Do you expect to see something like this either with Notre Dame or some other big schools? SDSU just got done with the Arkansas. Do you expect to see more of this or even continue it with Notre Dame?
Well, here's what I would say. If SDSU would have beaten Notre Dame, I think we're having a different conversation. I'm not sure Notre Dame's coming back if SDSU beats them. I don't think Arkansas is coming back. SDSU went down there and beat them, and Arkansas came up here and SDSU beat them again. So that's the whole reason that they don't play Wisconsin. They don't play. USC didn't want to come back after SDSU beat them. You can go down the list. There's tons of schools that don't play them. I look at the whole Mike Gate thing, for lack of a better term, as just
the Gates. Why did you kill? You just killed it off like son of a bitch. Man.
I see it as Muffet McGraw. How do you not? If you're Notre Dame, and how many games in a year? They probably play 12, 15 away games. I don't know, 12 away games. You play a lot of away games in front of crappy venues. And if you're Notre Dame, you want to get tested in the non-conference. That's why you schedule this game.
In the middle of nowhere, South Dakota.
We were talking about how she probably heard that SDSU supported the game pretty well. But it makes a big difference when you show up and there's 5,500 people there and they're into the game and they're passionate and they care. And you have a hard a tough team to play. It's not an easy win to get. And I would say that she was, she seemed genuine, and they got exactly what they wanted. They got a good test. They got a victory, and it didn't seem condescending to me. By all accounts, she's never done that before. 34 years of coaching from their SID, saying that she'd never done that before. If I'm a SDSU fan, I'm not living for her appreciation or admiration of my team. I don't, as far as I'm concerned, she can hate SDSU. Whatever, if she loves you, hates you. And every coach, Kriens would say this, is that every coach comments on the atmosphere anyway. Somebody was going to ask in the post-game press conference what you thought of it, because in South Dakota, everybody asks. They ask the Indiana coach. They ask
because it's unique. Because this is very unique.
Right.
For a mid-major, or even
anywhere, not mid-majors, not mid-majors. Outside the top 10, everybody.
But especially for a mid-major.
Yes, especially for mid-majors. 20,000 people in the town, unbelievable.
If you limit it to mid-majors, I think you're selling yourself short.
No, everybody. The Summit League tournament outdrew every single tournament in the country, and half the men's tournaments. Every single one to see poor women's basketball, for God's sakes. Yep. Why? Because there's one team that's really, really good, and the second best team in the conference is an hour away. So there you go.
Yep.
Last year, Notre Dame, average road attendance, 3,000 people. Here you go, almost doubled it. In a non-conference game, they averaged 8,500 at home. That's a pretty good crowd. You look at some of the teams they played last year. At Clemson, they had 1,200 people. At Virginia Tech, 1,800 people. At Boston College, 1,900. At GA Tech, 2,300. At North Carolina State, 2,600 people. People do not give a shit about women's basketball, but they do here because it's well played and it's something new. Outside of that, they do not care. And that's why this was a big deal to have Notre Dame come here, a top 5 team for God's sakes, go on the road. Nobody, Connecticut, Tennessee, go down the list. Baylor, nobody's coming to South Dakota State. Nobody's coming to that equivalent. Nobody's going to Marist, for God's sakes. Nobody's going up to Green Bay. Why? Because there's a potential they could lose, and they would say, "Oh, you lost on the road." I mean, they're just not doing that. They have at Miami 1,800, at Syracuse 2,100, at UCLA 3,000. I would love to see here the last time they played in front of a crowd that big on the road.
Yeah. And that's not a UConn or a South Carolina or a team that is at the top, in the top 5, top 10 every year. I would say
I'm
that.
Go through this year, look at the road games, and I'm sending out a tweet saying that's the largest road game, true road game they've played in front of, and whatever it is, 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is, and I think that hopefully it shouldn't surprise people, but I think it might.
Yeah, and as far as like the whole respect thing, SDSU, like the basketball team, the people that operate the program, the people that make the schedule, need teams to respect them. Otherwise, they're not going to get home games. They're not going to get good games. Yeah. I don't really care about what the fans think, but SDSU's people that make the schedule need other teams to respect them. And unfortunately, there's not a lot that do, because you've got Minnesota that won't play here. We think Nebraska won't play here anymore because they've lost. These teams have lost. I don't know what the status is with the home and homes with Creighton. Iowa's not playing at SDSU anymore because they lost. You can go.
Funny how that works.
I would certainly hope that Notre Dame and SDSU could keep this relationship going and do the home and home series again. I would just say, more from a fan or an alum aspect of it, I don't feel that SDSU is appreciated, maybe more so from the committee when it comes tournament time, because their seating is slighted. That's why I like these games and like to hear that opposing teams think, oh, this is a good place to play, or it's difficult, because then it would help SDSU come seeding-wise. That's where I come from for that.
Yeah, I get that, but to me, it only really comes down to whether or not you beat them.
Right.
But the tournament, that's what should matter. It should really only matter if you beat them or if you didn't. And SDSU didn't beat them yesterday. But that was a great chance to win that game, but I also don't – I mean, it would have been a good win, but then the committee's probably looking at, well, Notre Dame was on the road. It's a tough place to play. And so how much credit would SDSU get for that? I have no idea. But I think we're all in agreement that SDSU needs those games. Notre Dame needs those games. That's why it's good for women's college basketball. But
SDSU does need some of these games at home, because you can't keep playing these big schools on the road, because it will not help you unless you somehow win. And it's difficult to win on the road against these big, Power 5 teams for the most part in order to help your overall resume.
And I have to give AJ a lot of credit. That's the reason he doesn't play Minnesota. That's the reason he doesn't play Iowa. That's the reason he doesn't play Nebraska, like they don't play SDSU, because he's not going to do a 3-for-1 or a 2-for-1. It's got to be straight up. It's got to be 1-for-1, and that's good. I don't envy the people that have to put that schedule together, because it's not easy. I think he was at the Mitchell Quarterback Club a week or two ago, and he said that it's basically a year-long process. As soon as one schedule's done, then you start working on it for the next year, and you really only have to fill in 12 spots. Yeah, I think they have 18 conference games, so you're not filling in that much more, but you got to work pretty damn hard to get those 12 games filled, and you can't go to Cancun or you can't go to the Virgin Islands every year.
Well, they usually do some sort of a Thanksgiving tournament.
They do, but
get 3 good games.
Yeah, but I don't envy that position, because that's got to be hard when you're calling basically every school within 5 hours and they don't want to play you because you're good.
He did kind of say in the press conference, you kind of got your Arkansas, Little Rocks, kind of a group of teams. Middle Tennessee, Marist,
yep.
A half dozen schools, Green Bay. We're like, we're the best of the mid-majors. We can't get any Big 10 school, Big 12 school to play us.
We're going to play each other.
We're going to play each other. Somebody's going to lose. That's not good. But a loss, I would, in my opinion, a loss to Notre Dame, especially an 11-point loss, not a 40-point loss like last year, but if you lose by 10, hell of a lot better than beating any team in your conference in the Summit League. And I would say beating one of these mid-major teams and even losing to them, I would give them more credit than beating any other team in the Summit League.
I would hope they do that, but I really have no idea if that's how that works. None of us have been in the committee room, so we don't really know.
Well, let's see too how Arkansas and Marist finish out too for the rest of the year, because if they make the tournament, that would certainly benefit SDSU as well.
And there was a time like they played 3 home games in 8 days. One was, I think, against Oregon. One was against like a Utah. And one was against another name school. They weren't any good, but they beat all of them, and they were name schools. I don't know, Arkansas is, I would say, more of a name school than I think.
Didn't Gonzaga come over to SDSU a number of years ago?
7, 8 years ago, started the season off. They're very good. SDSU beat them. I'd say Arkansas is more of a name, because SDSU is better than they are. Beat them last year on the road, beat them this year. So
Arkansas is only known, and maybe it's not as well known to everyone else, but Jimmy Dykes being the head coach, I think, brings a lot more credence or credibility, at least to college basketball fans who know him from his broadcasting days.
I think I saw a stat after they beat Arkansas that SDSU, since they've gone Division I, is like 9-2 against the SEC. They're really good. And I don't remember exactly. I don't remember exactly who they've all played, but I'm sure they played Georgia. They might have played Kentucky, years ago when Kentucky wasn't as good. They've definitely played Arkansas a couple times. I don't know who else they've played, but that's obviously really good. So.
Traxer tweets, cool that Muffet McGraw got on the PA, thanked the crowd at the game. Great that the Irish helped make it happen. Then Matt Zimmer goes, he didn't know why that was cool. He said, would Notre Dame let Aaron Johnson thank their crowd after the game? Seems condescending, and I really don't get the point he was trying to make. I think then he went on to say that he thought SDSU was above this, which, I don't know, they've had a lot of success. They've won 1 tournament game. It's tough to win on the road when you're a 14 seed all the time.
Well, if SDSU were better ranked than Notre Dame and SDSU went on the road, maybe you wouldn't have a problem with AJ going up and saying that if he were to do that. I don't.
Well, it's a deal where they get 8,500 people every game,
Yeah.
And SDSU gets good crowds. 2,000 people for a women's basketball game is unbelievable. 1,000 people is a good crowd. 1,000 people is a good crowd. Half of that, you're lucky to get 500 people, literally, for a game. At the majority of these schools, they got 10 times that many, and they'll be playing in March, and they'll get 20 times. They'll get 8,000 people to watch them in USD play again. So,
and then 20,000 for the Final Four.
That's right. So they'll be playing it at Howard Wood, 10,000 there. Closed location right off the TV at the Pentagon for all 10 people that fits into the Pentagon. And then to finally wrap the damn thing up, Jared Baszler, former golf coach at South Dakota State, he says something to the effect of questioning Matt Zimmer's journalism integrity, which I thought was ridiculous.
Stupid.
And it would seem like somebody like that who deals with the media a little bit when he was a golf coach would understand. And Marcus Traxler, to send you off on a high note here, what is it that people don't understand about journalism that the normal person says, oh, this affects his professionalism in a negative way when it has nothing to do with that? I just think it's ridiculous, and it makes him look stupid.
I think I've read his point like 5 or 10 times, and I still don't really understand what he's trying to say. And I don't think he knows what it means to be a professional journalist. Matt Zimmer's viewpoint differed from my viewpoint, but part of journalism is having viewpoints, and it's pretty important that he does have a viewpoint. And it doesn't affect the way he's being objective in his job at all. I think we see a person who doesn't understand what journalism is, doesn't understand what the job of a journalist is. So I just don't know what he's trying to say, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know. I didn't expect this whole thing to get as much attention as it got yesterday, and I think it's finally sort of died down today, but I think I had 24 mentions in my Twitter feed. A lot of them were, I didn't really care what people had to say. I only tweeted it out there because I thought people should know about it, and I didn't know if anybody else was going to tweet about it. And
Mark Ovenden may have been the only one else.
I didn't see. Yeah, he was the only other person I saw that tweeted about it, and I guess it's good that people are talking about it, but it may be one of the dumbest things I've ever been involved with online to just argue about this. So I don't know. And the part of the tweet that I think is being overlooked, at least on my end, not that people are sitting there breaking it down over dinner, but is that the game doesn't happen without Notre Dame. I just can't. I have to come back to that. They're the number 3 team. The series totally rides on Notre Dame, and so they're willing to take that risk. You look at the men's game yesterday. North Carolina was willing to take that risk and go play at Northern Iowa. And God damn it, I'm glad they did. Even though they lost and they're not going to be number 1, and they weren't playing with their best player, they took that risk. I'm glad that there's teams that are willing to do that because that makes it more fun,
And it would have been something maybe if a school like a Baylor, who damn near lost to South Dakota State in 2009. How about hey, home and home here? Right. We showed we can play with you. I mean, that's the best team SDSU's ever had, in my opinion. 2009, 2010 season, I believe, 8-9, whatever it was, their first tournament run. And wouldn't that be nice? Hey, let's have a home and home here. But obviously, Baylor not doing that. Because that's what
they like to cheat.
Cheating. Never forget.
If I was SDSU, if I was Aaron Johnson, I would have jumped on the opportunity yesterday, and I would have pulled the contract out of my pocket and had Notre Dame sign up right on the spot. Strike while the iron's hot. Let's get this thing cooking once more. Because
also,
I hope they play. I hope there's 2 more years of that. SDSU goes out there next year, and. Was it last year that they played Notre Dame on the road, or 2 years ago?
I thought it was 2 years, but
I think there was a year in between.
They lost by 40. It was bad.
It was bad. Yeah, I mean, then they could go out there next year and very well probably will happen again. But
SDSU is a lot better than they were a couple years ago. So.
If you could rank, where was Macy Miller in terms of like the best players on the court yesterday?
I put her at 3 or 4.
I was going to say 3.
Okay.
They had that one. I mean, they had the big girl, the future WNBA player. They had this one guard that I thought was really good. Shot like a dude. Whenever a girl shoots like a dude, she's good. Like Kenny Cornerman shot like a dude. I'm like, all right. Like, you can get your own shot off. You can drive and stop on a dime and shoot the ball. I mean, when you can do that, I think you're pretty good. So, I mean, she's, like I said, best player in the history of the state, best player in the history of the school. She should win the player of the year the next 3 years. All-time points record, greatest of all time. I think she'll get drafted. So
Well, I think that's
No pressure.
I
No
said
pressure.
this before she went. Before
You did. You
yeah,
said it.
I went all Schottenkirk on it and said everything, draft, the whole deal.
I think with Ellie Thompson and Clarissa Ober, I do think that they have the nucleus on this team does have a chance to be better than that 09 team.
They have
The guard.
They have better.
Who's the girl I
They
like?
have better inside players, and they have Madison Gubert, who is a freshman from
Madison Hoover?
suburban Twin Cities. She's a good player already. I mean, if you're a freshman and you're playing already, that's a
Starting.
good sign. Starting, yeah,
Carrie Young's all right too.
pretty good.
Same deal. They go 10 deep and everybody's good. Alexander, point guard, good.
Yep.
Very good. College football time.
That'll
Wow.
do it for me.
Very
Take
good,
care,
sir.
man.
I'll see you in the fortnight.
Can I just mention real quickly
Yes.
here? The team with the big win this weekend, SDSU men, holding off a furious rally from TCU. I'm going to tell you right now, Texas Tech don't scare me. Minnesota doesn't scare me.
Oh, Jesus, calm yourself. Calm
Listen,
yourself.
I know TCU's garbage Big 12 team for men's basketball, but this SDSU team is playing with a huge chip on their shoulder this year after losing last year. They seem to have a lot more drive in it. The win at Illinois State was good. This team is a team that will be playing into March.
Well,
And not just Summit League tournament. I think they're
And beat Kentucky by 12 points.
it's bold,
that's
Charlie.
right.
It's bold. So, are you saying they're winning a tournament game?
Let me put it this way.
Okay.
I think they have about this is gonna sound really dumb, but then again, half the shit that I say is dumb. So I'm giving them a 52% chance of getting an at-large bid.
No, sorry. Can't go. I mean, we've been over this many times.
This is my bold prediction.
It's bold. It's bold. But I think they're winning the conference. I mean, if you're losing, you cannot lose the Summer League title game to an awful team near a 100 RPI, whoever it's going to be, and get it. I mean,
we haven't seen it play out yet, but I think right now Western Illinois looks like a good bet to play in the Summit League tournament game, and which would help because they have that win over Wisconsin.
And they were, I don't know where I think they were picked 8th, 7th, 8th, 9th in the conference. That'd be a hell of a deal for them to be, one of those teams. I mean, they beat Wisconsin.
Yep. And again, it's bold. It's probably not going to happen, but I like where this team is going. I don't expect them to lose to Houston Baptist or Rider or Cleveland State in the Cancun tournament. Then you come back. I just like the direction they're going. They're playing really good. I think DeAndre Parks and George Marshall are really going to turn some heads this year.
For them to get an at-large,
SDSU's winning the Summit, getting the 13 seed, beating 4 seed Arizona in the opening round of the tournament.
Boom!
Mark this down. This would be good if that happened. I would say if you are an at-large from the Summit League, you obviously need to get to the title game and lose. I would say that loss can be no higher than your 3rd loss of the year. I don't think a team that goes 28-4 or even 30-4, I don't think that's good enough. If they go 30-4, I don't think they would get in. I'm
just looking at their schedule right now.
They're going to lose what? At least 2 or 3 in the conference. I mean, if they beat Minnesota, they beat Texas Tech. I mean, then they'll have those.
I say they only have to beat one of those 2 teams.
And you got to beat both.
I will give them, Florida Gulf Coast. Maybe could be a little bit of a tough game. I'm really not all that scared.
Middle Tennessee State's pretty good.
Yep, but that game is at home, and that's a
difference.
I'm just looking at their road games here, and I'm looking at, Texas Tech. Yeah, that could be a little difficult, but I don't. Tubby Smith. I think
you're gonna get in that large spot. You got to win those games.
You got to win them. Yep.
Right, but that's why I'm saying I think the TCU win does help, or build the confidence that, hey, we can go on the road and beat these teams from the Big 12 and the Big 10.
I think they'll lose 6 or 7 games and win the conference.
I'm gonna say they lose no more than 5.
Okay.
But that probably wouldn't help. I agree. They need to lose 3 or 4 in order to even have a shot at an at-large.
What about your Stephen F. Austin squad? Where'd they go? Charlie.
Or I was just gonna say I don't know how many games they play, so I'm just gonna come up with I'm gonna say they play 33. Sure. I'm gonna say they go 27-6.
That's about right. Yeah. Your Stephen F. Austin squad, what would they have? 2 losses a year or 2 ago and got a 12 seed at-large bid? Or not at-large, but they won the conference.
Yeah.
2 losses, and I don't think they get in if they lose a third. Because they were a 12 seed winning the conference, and I think 1 more loss would have knocked them out. Or a conference title game loss would have knocked them out.
But you're going to have to take a look at the RPI at the end of the year, and I'm going to say that the Summit would be significantly higher than the Southland.
I would agree with that, yes, absolutely.
So I do think, and that's why it would benefit if Western Illinois can really put together a run here in the Summit this year, because it would give the Summit 3 teams, because I'm going to throw North Dakota State in there too, even though I think they'll be knocked down a peg with some of the losses that they had. I think SDSU, NDSU, and Western Illinois would make for a very those 3 teams will be better than almost every team in the Southland except for maybe SFA.
You need one of those North Dakota teams, like North Dakota State teams like last year, to be like in the 60 RPI range. You need one more team to piggyback off of that you can beat 2 or 3 times during the season. Say we got 4 or 5 top 50, top 75, top 100 wins. So in Oral Roberts back in the day, it would be good to have at least one team be top 75. So,
yeah,
good discussion there. College football. Charlie, console me if you can. Can you give me words of encouragement because my Buckeyes lost? How will I survive?
I know that you've been broken up about that for
years.
Let's see. I think I know that you bought last year's box set of the national title run. I blew to rewatch those.
I did.
Remember the times they gave it to Ezekiel Elliott more than 11 times?
I remember that game. All 3 of them. It was fun.
Remember what it was like, offensive coordinator?
Yes. 2.
I think, to me, it's really interesting that I think I even said this before the season, and I'm definitely going to sprain my elbow patting myself on the back for this. But, like I said, that I thought Ohio State this year might be like Florida in 2009, Tim Tebow's last season, and it has basically been that way almost the entire way, where it's like, yep, they're better than these teams, but why aren't they blowing them out more? They should be winning by more.
They're not that good.
And they play a team that they beat last year. Florida beat Alabama in the SEC title game. Ohio State beat Michigan State, not in a conference title game, but it was essentially the conference title game in East Lansing. And then it turns out that team really took that to heart and came in angry and upset. Probably used it the whole offseason as motivation. And these are the kind of things that they make movies and write books about for great coaches, where you waltz into the defending national championships stadium, or the team stadium, double-digit underdogs with a backup quarterback, and walk out with a win. I mean, I think however much longer Mark D'Antonio's in Michigan State, he probably won't have to buy anything ever again if he doesn't hold.
Oh yeah, that's it. This is their Michigan State's biggest win in many decades. This was the big one. It's nice to beat a Baylor at a Cotton Bowl. It's nice to win a Big Ten title, but knocking off the defending national champion, 3 team in the country on the road, 23-game winning streak, winning streaks galore.
I think in '98, Ohio State was the preseason #1 team and was number one. And Nick Saban was the head coach at Michigan State then, and Michigan State beat top-ranked. They were like a 20-point top-ranked Ohio State, and it's probably their biggest win since that game.
And it's odd that
almost 20 years ago.
It's odd that Nick Saban really hasn't done much, so you didn't really capitalize on that at all. So that sucks for him.
It sucks he never really got a shot to see what he could do.
It was like 3 national titles is all? 4? That's pretty bad.
4 if you
LSU.
The one at LSU.
Yeah, I expected at least a half dozen out of him. So 17-14 Michigan State wins with somebody named Kyler O'Connor as their quarterback. I'm just thinking, there you go. Their kicker makes the field goal, time expiring. Connor Cook out, so they just put a different uniform. They just put the O in front of the first name. And Michigan State wins as their quarterback, throws for 89 yards. Obviously the next Cardale Jones there. I take this Tyler O'Connor with the first overall pick every time, regardless of the year. He's that good. Mr. Stacken, how many weeks in a row have I said I do not like Ohio State? I don't think they're that good. I'd put them at 6. I'd put them no higher than 6. I'd put Iowa above them. I'd put Oklahoma State above them.
So let me ask you this then.
What do we got?
If you were so down on Ohio State, do you look at the Michigan State win as all that good in terms of them rising up a whole hell of a lot of spots? I would say maybe 3. Is it more impressive that their backup quarterback helped lead them to victory?
Yep.
Where would you put them then? Because if it's not that impressive of a win really to me, because Ohio State you thought was overrated to begin with.
I would say the backup quarterback, that's a deal. And I don't really like Michigan State because they're the same as Ohio State. Highly ranked, and they barely win their games. The Rutgers.
Would you rank them above Iowa?
No, I would not.
I think the funniest thing of this, though, was Ezekiel Elliott and Cardale Jones. Like the whole Ohio State locker room is just imploding right now. What was that, Charlie?
Nobody thought very highly of look better now. Like,
so you cutting out
now weeks ago.
The Oregon win?
Yeah, it's cutting in a little in and out there. But,
the Air 3.
Oh.
Redo that whole deal. What you said something about the Oregon win looking better.
Those wins look better.
Yeah, they do.
Yep.
Or what? 5-1 for Oregon.
Especially with the way Oregon's playing right now. I think
somebody else. Michigan.
Yeah,
we're having some trouble there.
Yeah, I think the way Oregon's playing right now, that definitely benefits Michigan State. It is going to come down to that Big Ten championship game. I have to think Michigan State's going to take care of Penn State.
Does that game mean anything as far as the playoff?
The Michigan State-Penn State game?
Michigan State, Iowa. I guess Iowa's in there, so that'll mean.
Yeah, I mean, if Michigan, the winner of the Big Ten championship game is getting in.
Really? If it's between Michigan State and Iowa?
Yes. Yep. I know. I mean, in all honesty, Notre Dame, they're out this week because that was an unimpressive win against Boston College. I don't care if one of their guys got significantly hurt again.
Well, C.J. Procise, running back, not going to play against Stanford. On the road, that's going to be a tough one.
Well, and it could change this week. But now, I'd almost have to put Oklahoma. But even they didn't look all that impressive in the second half against TCU. Now, a large part of that could be because Baker Mayfield was out. So if you're the committee, you have 2 teams that are truly locked in, 1-2, and that being Clemson and Alabama.
Yep.
And
I mean, what's the list here? Somebody stop me if I mention a team that you say they're done. They're done. Iowa, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Michigan State, Baylor, Oklahoma State.
I think Baylor's done.
Okay.
I don't, because they went.
I think Baylor's done outside of complete and utter done. I don't want to say there's zero chance, but
It's unlikely.
if Alabama loses to Florida, and if Clemson loses, and if Oklahoma State, and you have all these things, and Notre Dame loses, then maybe. But I think all the teams you mentioned before Baylor are all on no way teams, I think, unless
Florida.
Florida's done. They're done.
Florida's done?
Lose.
They're
Yeah.
off.
Yep.
Oklahoma State's in there.
I would put Baylor above Oklahoma State. Okay, so if Oklahoma State beats Oklahoma this weekend, Oklahoma's out, and I would put Baylor above Oklahoma State because Baylor beat Oklahoma State. I would give them the edge over Oklahoma State for that inside track to a playoff spot.
I think, assuming Iowa and Michigan State win out and Notre Dame wins out, I think Oklahoma is the only Big 12 team that could challenge those two and maybe knock one of those out. I think the other ones have such bad non-conference schedules that there's no way they could get in. I think, like I said, without somebody else losing, I think they would. Oklahoma State is played and would not look that impossible.
I think what would make this completely hilarious is if somehow Auburn were to upset Alabama this week.
That would be nice.
I hope they do.
I mean, there was a couple weeks ago where it was a pretty good college. I mean, it looked pretty good, but it really was. I think that was the wedding weekend, or somewhere around there, where it looked, oh, Jesus Christ. I think, yeah, it was the wedding weekend because we were talking in the vehicle, like, oh, this is going to be very good. And they're like, well, like Florida lost their quarterback to LSU, and we're like, well, this really isn't going to be all that great, and it really wasn't. But this weekend, geez, I mean, this is a big weekend. What do we got here? Of course, Friday, Navy at Houston. If you're hard about that, Navy at Houston. The winner of that game wins that division, the West Division of the AAC. Temple, they need to win. They should. So Navy Houston winner plays Temple. That'll be fun. Iowa at Nebraska. Not counting out.
Is your Nebraska squad going to pull off the upset?
Not counting that. I mean, that's possible.
I think we're to the point. I think that's truly like a coin flip game. I'm not going to predict. Well, I guess I predicted a while back that Nebraska would beat Iowa, so I guess I'll stick with it just because I predicted it. But I think it's truly, if they played 10 times in this situation where it is right now, especially with Nebraska getting a bye week last week or this weekend, I think if they played 10 times, no team would win more than 6.
I'm still not that impressed with Iowa. I'm getting there a little bit more, but there's something about them that just doesn't scream, oh my goodness, we're so good.
Here's what I heard, and this is what it is. When you don't play any impressive teams, you need to win convincingly, and they have not done that. They've had a couple games where they've won a couple, 3, 4, 5 touchdowns.
Let me just put it this way. If somehow they are the third team in the college football playoff, I am going to put all of my confidence points in Alabama, the highest, 40, 42, whatever we have now. I'm putting all 40 points on Bama crushing Iowa.
Would you have said the same thing last year with Ohio State and Alabama? All my points on Bama.
I would have been close, but I probably wouldn't have gone the full 40.
Okay.
Give Iowa the benefit of the doubt on one thing. I think with most of these teams that we're talking about, like in the top 5 or 6, most of varying degrees pretty good over the last 5 years. And this is like the first time in 6 years that Iowa has ever been the team to beat with a target on their back. And I think that's tough to get used to in 1 year. And I'm not saying that, like, that explains everything. I don't think Iowa's one of the 4 best teams in the country. But I think one of the reasons that they probably not always look great, your preseason highest expectations are all of a sudden right in front of you. I think you've never been in that situation. I think it's very difficult to be like, oh, well, like we're getting everybody's A game now when we're not used to getting Purdue's.
Just going based on that, like with Florida, would you put them as one of the better teams that should be playing in a championship game in 2 weeks?
They're the best team in the East. They have been very unimpressive in the last month. They should have lost to Vanderbilt. They should have lost to Florida Atlantic. They barely beat South Carolina, and we see the Citadel beat South Carolina. Florida's as unimpressive of a one-loss team. I thought there would be no doubt they'd beat Florida State this week. Now I'm not quite sure. I mean, you got to score some points.
I completely agree, but that's what I'm saying. Like,
to give her some really good.
I mean, the SEC is not very good this year. That's all there is to it.
Would you
put their offense is dreadful?
Awful.
Are you completely dismissing Ohio State as even having a chance at getting into a playoff?
Well, personally, for me, yes, but hell if I know what's going to happen. I mean, they do have a pretty good loss, but I think it'd be ridiculous to put them in.
I think there would have to be complete and utter mayhem, which, by the way, Allstate has. They protect you from mayhem. That would have to happen in order for Ohio State to get in.
I have no idea.
I think the only way Ohio State gets in is if they win the con.
Yeah, I have no idea what their.
So they would need.
Charlie. I don't know what Ohio State's good win would be. They got to beat Michigan. If Michigan's your best win, they're 12 right now. They drop out of the top 15 with a loss. I mean, I don't know the argument against Ohio State. They have the most NFL draft picks. That's nice. This is college football. They didn't play any good, so I really don't care who you have playing in the NFL. You have not played well this year, and you're not one of the 4 best, 5 best, 7 best teams. So get them out of here. North Carolina, Stacken. They beat your Vatek squad. What happened?
Okay, so I only got to see one part of one football game yesterday, and it was this one. I had a funeral and a Thanksgiving yesterday, so I was preoccupied much of the day. But I did see the final 10 minutes of this game, and listen, as bad as Florida's offense is, Virginia Tech's is almost just as bad. Tech can't move the ball at all, but they did get a couple of turnovers in there. I turned it on. It was 24-10 UNC. I saw a couple of fumbles, and Marquise Williams was having some issues. Virginia Tech got right back in it, and in overtime, that was not a fucking catch. It was not. He's bobbling it. I don't even think he gets a leg down while he has possession. I don't know. I'm sure it was the Duke Miami crew that was reffing this game because it was atrocious. I don't know what they're looking at. Now, I'm not saying Virginia Tech ultimately would have won because UNC could have kicked a field goal, and then you don't know what's going to happen in a double overtime. But that's not a catch. Am I wrong? Am I seeing things through the maroon and orange colored glasses here that you through the normal glasses are seeing, or was that a terrible missed call by the officials?
What do we say?
What?
Good call, no call, bad call?
I think it's a bullshit call. It was a terrible call.
Does Shirley have a?
It was a good call.
Let's see here.
I do not believe I saw the specific play you're referring to. I heard about it. I did not see it, though.
See if we can YouTube this. It's not a catch.
Let's see.
I don't know what a catch is, period.
Well, that's true.
Anymore.
I saw you had to take the ball, cradle it like a baby, shave it, so there's no stubble on the ball, and put it to bed.
I think the best thing I saw on Twitter, someone was saying to be a catch, you have to catch it, take 3 steps, get buried, become fossilized, get unearthed, and then put into a museum, and then it counts as a catch.
Like, this never used to be an issue. That Calvin Johnson thing was the first deal, and then it was a while. I mean, this 2-3, this was never an issue. This never happened.
But do you think it was a catch, Kriens?
I didn't see it. I don't. I was at the basketball game. I got your text. I had no idea what the hell you were talking about. I figured it was Vatek. It was a terrible call. I got some highlights here. Let's see what we got here. This was
just for quick reference point. Stacken, did you see the Wisconsin touchdown catch that turned out to not be a catch?
I did not, no.
Okay, this was
Like
the game-winning catch?
I'm going to ask you if it was worse than that, because that one, like I saw it, and
like I say, I only saw part of one game yesterday, and it was this game, because I made sure to watch it.
Okay, well, this was on the corner on the right side, game-winning touchdown here?
Yep, in overtime.
They didn't show it very well. I mean, I can't see from the deal they showed, so that sucks.
I'm gonna YouTube it and see if I can find it.
They replayed it. Yeah, they didn't give me the other angle. He catches it 1 foot in. I mean, I don't know. Bobbling the ball. I couldn't see it from there. But I don't know why this has become a thing. It's unbelievable how this is so difficult to determine if it's a catch or not. And so many times it's we think it's wrong, and it's like, well, that's not a catch. How the hell is that a catch? And this is a catch. I mean, it's bad.
Do you think it's just that we have more access to some of these, and we didn't hear about them before, just because we didn't see it, and it just kind of got lost in the shuffle?
I don't know if there's a rule change or what, because that Des Bryant catch, I think that whatever that was against the Packers in the playoffs, that should be a catch. He had the ball clear, 1-2 down. I think that's clearly a catch. And more times than not, when they rule no catch, I think, no, that is a catch. That should be a catch. I mean, that Calvin Johnson.
Because when we talked about it on the sports block, that the year before, when my Cornhuskers lost to Stacken to go where near the same talent level of Calvin Johnson, but had the ball in his hands and had 2 steps, fell. That was my first time seeing it. So we can go back to at least 2009.
Well, the Calvin Johnson catch against the Bears, that was a catch. I don't know what in the hell.
And I should also say, as bad as the Calvin Johnson one was worse. It wasn't a catch. The Calvin Johnson.
And most of the time, when they say no catch, it should be a catch. So I don't know why this happened. It's awful. Did we find anything?
Trying to pull up the highlight here.
There's like a 2.5-minute highlight I saw, and they just show it once.
If you go to the game score that there's on ESPN.com, there's a section.
Post the link in the group chat here, on the right side.
Oh geez, I can try, but
Clemson.
If it would ever load, then I will.
Okay. Clemson, Alabama. I mean, Clemson won. Remember, Charlie, 5 minutes ago when there were 9 undefeated teams, now there's 2. I mean, Jesus Christ, that was quick. It was 2 weeks, 7 teams were undefeated. They're all done. We were waiting, last year at this time there were 2 undefeated teams. Wow, there's 9 of them left. Well, it's Iowa, it's Clemson. And one of them's, Iowa's probably going to lose. So, funny how that works. You have 21 lost teams you can pick from.
Yep.
Clemson's number 1. Alabama's number 2. After that, Charlie, where do your votes go right now? 3 and 4. Charlie froze up.
I think I would say.
There we go.
Oklahoma 3 or for right now. I think if either Iowa or Michigan State win out, I would probably end up bumping
Notre Dame?
off for the Big Ten champion,
You put Notre Dame 4
assuming
right now?
everything else plays out.
Notre Dame 4 right now? Or Iowa?
I would go Michigan State 4 right now.
It seems like we got basically 4 teams for 2 spots. Iowa, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Michigan State, 3 through 6 right now are those teams we're trying to figure out. Stacken, what's your 3 and 4 here?
And obviously, Iowa and Michigan State, one way or another, will cancel each other out.
I think reluctantly I might have to put Iowa at 3, and then I'd probably put Oklahoma at 4, followed by Michigan State 5, drop Notre Dame down to 6, and Baylor remain at they would be 7.
Because Oklahoma was that Ohio State from last year. I think they were 16th in the first playoff rankings. Now they're all the way up to 5. And just like Ohio State, they have an awful loss, an all-time awful loss versus Texas. So it's
without question, it is an eliminator game on Saturday. Is it Saturday? Yeah, Saturday between Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. There's no way that both teams can still have a shot.
No, 2 losses, you're done.
Yeah. If Oklahoma State had beaten Baylor, there could still be an argument made.
And it looks like there's going to be another tie. So is this right? The Big 12 will not have another champion again. Is that? I mean, there's going to be probably Baylor with 1 loss and that Oklahoma game winner. They're both going to have 8-1 in the conference. There's going to why can't they do a tiebreaker? Okay, everybody plays everybody. Did they change that or what's the deal here?
I thought they did change it, but I'm not 100% certain.
Well, they should.
I thought it was the ticker.
Because if it's Oklahoma, I mean, it should be because they need a champion. They need to say, this is our representative. This is who won our conference. I would say no less than a dozen teams or a dozen games this week intrigue me. Baylor TCU Friday night. That doesn't have much luster. Baylor still has to win. Ohio State at Michigan. That's my number 1 game because I like Michigan for some reason. Clemson at South Carolina. Please beat them. UCLA at USC. Winner wins the South and plays Stanford. UNC at NC State. Could see a upset there. Alabama and Auburn, going to be a boat race bloodbath. Penn State at Michigan State. Penn State, please win with your shitty quarterback. Notre Dame at Stanford. It's pretty good. Florida State at Florida. Please, Florida, score more than 10 points. And Oklahoma at Oklahoma State, probably the number 2 game of the week for me, since Oklahoma, a win there for either puts them in the top 5 or stays in the top 5. So I would say Ohio State, Michigan, I like that because I want to see Michigan, a 2-loss Michigan team, win the conference to see what happens. And I also like the Oklahomas. Of all those games, Charlie, what you going with those games or another game, Stanford over Dame? What do you like? Charlie.
The games are Notre Dame and Stanford. Part of the reason is just because since I work late on Saturday, I've seen Stanford play a lot. And I think that if Stanford wins, it makes it easy to leave Notre Dame out. If Notre Dame finishes 11-1, I'm not going to say they're guaranteed to be in. I think it would be difficult to leave Notre Dame out over Stanford, and their only loss at probably top-seeded Clemson. And I would also, and if they do get in, assuming we have the situation we talked about earlier, where you've got, the Big Ten champ, Oklahoma, and 4 out.
I too probably say Notre Dame Stanford is probably the game to watch for me. I'll give Oklahoma State a close second, and I'd really love to see Auburn beat Alabama. So we'll put that third.
It seems to me it's going to be.
And I want to add it'll be the most entertaining game.
Yeah. I'd say it seems to me we're going to have a debate here between Notre Dame, assuming they win, which is a big if, and the Big 12, Big 10 champ. I think those are your four. I mean, if Notre Dame loses, this is pretty cut and dry, I think. If Notre Dame loses, then it's the Big 10 winner and the Big 12 winner. I think that's easy. I think there's not much debate there, but I think Notre Dame holds the key there. So we could get down to that. I mean, we could know a lot by next Sunday. If Notre Dame loses, we should know what the deal's going to be. So, and just like a Clemson, Oklahoma. I mean, Clemson killed them last year in the bowl game, so that would be a heck of a deal. Alabama, Iowa, Stacken likes that a lot. Thinks that's going to be a real close one. I mean, Alabama, Michigan State. There you go. So, and then apparently there was a Mississippi State Arkansas game that was like 51-50, like the best game nobody saw. Like this game was on, but I'm watching the Oklahoma game and other stuff. But this apparently was the game of games here, 51-50. Unbelievable. I
think the funniest thing about that is that if it was anybody other than two SEC teams, all the SEC fans would say, well, they just don't play defense in that conference. Right. We play defense here. But since it was the SEC, its quarterbacks are. In Arkansas, I think this could be something at the end of the year. Arkansas making a big run at the Shawn Michaels Award, having the best game every week. I think if we want to retroactively go back, I think TCU won that last year. I think maybe if you want to say Baylor did, maybe since their bowl game was a lot better, but because Iowa plays boring, Michigan State plays boring, Ohio State awful. So Ezekiel Elliott. I didn't hear all you said. You saying that Arkansas plays the most entertaining. Well, I would say this game, which I didn't see, but 51-50, something happened there. Then the Ole Miss game last week, the overtimes, the crazy finish, the points there. They beat LSU. For whatever reason, Arkansas does well at the end of the year now with Bielema. So, any other team you would nominate? The Shawn Michaels Award. Yeah, I don't know any other teams stick out. I mean, Florida plays garbage. I mean, I don't know who you want to put as the worst wrestler, most boring. The Great Khali, maybe they can be the Great Khali. Florida, just awful to watch. Is all of them. Like 3 of them were. I think if you just want to go with the close games all the time, I think you could make a case for Nebraska, but of Nebraska's close games, like 3 of them were absolutely awful, though. Like Illinois was awful, and Purdue was awful. I would put Nebraska like a Rey Mysterio cruiserweight flying all around. It's very exciting to watch. They may win, they may lose, but it's like, God damn, this is fun. Shit's happening. They may be down 3 touchdowns, but they're going to come back. Hail Marys, everything that you've ever wanted to see. It's going to be entertaining. I like it. And Northwestern, 9-2 Northwestern. They've won their last 4 games by 6 points, 7 points, 2 points, and 2 points. So there you go. Any thoughts on Ezekiel Elliott? Somehow, I didn't see this, but he got 12 carries, which doesn't seem right. Basically says, this is my last home game, I'm going to the draft. I have no problem with this. I can see why. Calling out the coach isn't good. Saying I'm done, that's no surprise. I can see why they'd say that's probably not a good thing to do, but I have absolutely no problem with half-shirt Elliott saying F off, stupid play calling, I'm out of here.
Well, the calling out the coaches obviously isn't good, but don't you think he could have perhaps waited until after the game against Michigan next week. I just think it's almost like you're checking out before you're playing your biggest rival. Because I think he even realizes, too, Ohio State pretty much has no chance at a playoff. So, I go, oh, shit, I've been thinking about this for a while, and now I'm just going to go. It's your biggest rival next week. Why don't you wait until after that?
Probably bad timing, probably frustrated, yeah.
I think the only thing, not in defense of Ohio State, only ran 45 plays on offense, so he certainly didn't have many carries for people. And so when Michigan State has the ball the entire second half, running for 5 yards carry, but you still want to give him more carries. Your Heisman, at the time, he was a potential Heisman Trophy finalist at running back. I don't know. And I'm not going to condone him like getting angry in the press conference and saying that. And I'd be upset if I was him as well.
I would say
12 carries, 33 yards. Urban Meyer could not have called a more conservative game.
I was watching a pregame deal on him, and he's like, yeah, he's a second half back. The more we give him the ball, the better he gets. Second half. Well, maybe give him the ball 20 times. And JT, the whole deal.
He only had like 3 carries in the second half.
Well, the whole deal looked like JT Barrett was awful. Looked like the entire game was awful. So I'm sorry I missed that. I heard it was 7-7 in the third. I'm like, boy, I'm sorry I missed this dog shit of a game. Clemson's going to be 1, Alabama's 2. I think Iowa and Notre Dame will be 3 and 4 when they release it, with Oklahoma and Michigan State 5 and 6. So I think that's the deal there, and should be pretty cut and dry. So finally, Golden State still undefeated, Stacken.
Yep.
14-0. They're playing right now. Going to check on this at Denver. Should have lost to the Clippers probably, but didn't. Golden State going for their 15th consecutive win. This would tie the record or break the record for best start ever. They're up 9 points. Halfway through the third, should beat Denver. So 15-0 Golden State. And Philadelphia still without a win. We said last week who's going to do what first. We're still here a week later. Same thing's going on. I do like that Golden State is outwardly saying, yes, we want to break the Bulls record. We want to win 72 games. We want the best record of all time. I like that. So many times you see guys saying, oh, we're going to rest for the play. That's fine. You want to rest for the playoffs. That's fine. That's important to win the titles. But, they won the title. Go ahead. Go for that all-time record. You're at 15-0. I like that. Play 82 games like old man Jordan did. Win every game. Don't take games off, which seems to happen. I like this team a whole hell of a lot.
I think they're going to sail past 70.
Whoa!
I give them, injuries aside, because of course injuries to Steph Curry could derail them at any time. But remember, they're not even playing. They're not even being coached by Steve Kerr right now. I don't know if Luke Walton's going to get a job. Maybe he should. Maybe Steph Curry and company just make him look really, really good, and maybe they make Steve Kerr look expendable. I don't know, but I'm going to say I'm going to give them a 60% chance of finishing with at least 70 wins. I'm going to give them a 50% chance of finishing 72-10, and I will give them a 25% chance at finishing with single-digit losses.
It's unbelievable. This is going to be your best accomplishment of all time or your worst. I don't know. It's going to be one or the other.
What's the NBA record? Not for greatest start, but just for most.
72 for record?
Yeah.
70 Bulls.
No, not for wins in a season. Just for most consecutive wins, regardless of at what point in the year it is.
33. The Lakers in the early 70s had 33. Was it Miami last year? Had or Miami 2 years ago had 20, 22 or so. Bulls beat them.
I was going to predict that the Golden State Warriors were going to start off the season breaking the record for most consecutive wins until I heard you said it was 33.
That's a lot.
I don't think they're going to break the record for most and then finish like 69 and to start 34-0 and then still lose 13 games would be pretty underwhelming and disappointing.
It'd be like they're Kentucky. It'd be like Kentucky.
I'm going to say they go 68-14 for Golden State.
Good. I mean, I think I'm giving them 65 wins. Let's say they go 15.
I'm going out on a limb.
Yes, you are.
I've gone out on a couple limbs today in the basketball world. So, you know what? If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But you know what? If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Why not go out on and try some of these things?
If you're not rubbing, you're not racing. That's the. You got to rub.
Well, what's the worst that can happen? I'm wrong. How many times have I been wrong? I was wrong about the Houston Texans. I thought they'd have 4 wins. They already exceeded it. They're at 5.
Well, when I think of Stacken outlandish statements that were actually true, I'll say Demaryius Thomas going right where you thought he'd go. I'll say Brandon Whedon going where you thought he'd go. Those would be probably the 2 off the top of my head.
Remember, we always have the Stacken draft pick of the year.
Yes, and it was there. I don't know. Was there another one I'm missing?
Eric Ebron, Todd Gurley.
Todd Gurley this year was the one. Top 10, 8, whatever it was.
Yep.
So good. That's good for you.
Eric Ebron, stupid pick for the Lions.
Dumb.
Who, by the way, have scored 18 points in each of their last 2, each game the last 2 weeks, and won both of them. Go figure.
Too bad they're not a baseball team. That'd be really good. I want to take let's get this thing up here. I want to take a gander at the Warriors schedule. They had the Bulls Friday, won there. They had the Clippers down 20-plus points. All right, should have lost that game. The Clippers, I think they're 500 right now. Golden State schedule. Charlie, how much does it not matter? NBA coaches. What do they do? What difference do they make?
I think that NBA. I thought before. I don't know who's less important, NBA coaches or MLB managers. I'm going to say important X's and O's wise. I think they're only there for motivation and to massage each other. Things aren't hurt and the right guys have fires lit beneath them. So depending on how important you think the shrink is, either NBA coaches are still relatively important or not important at all.
I would say if you're on one side of that fence, I would say Phil Jackson's the greatest of all time. Just getting everybody to get together and get along.
Thing I could say about Phil Jackson is he never was the coach of a team that he had to build up, that he inherited stuff. But even with that, he still won more titles than anybody else. And it's not his fault that he was smart and took good coaching jobs.
Looking at this schedule, if they win tonight 15-0, they play the Lakers on Tuesday. Good Lord. That's 16-0. They're at Phoenix. Phoenix is a team. They're versus Sacramento at home. That's a bloodbath. They go on a 7-game road trip over 2 weeks. You would assume that they would lose there. You want to be bold enough to give them wins at home versus the Lakers and the Kings. And if they can win at Phoenix and at Utah, and if they can beat my Charlotte squad, that would be 20-0. At Toronto, at Brooklyn, they suck. At Indiana, they're okay. At Boston, they're okay. At Milwaukee, they're okay. So, Stacken, what do we think here?
At Toronto, internationally.
There you go. Nearly lost to Toronto, I think, this week. Probably should have. But 20-0 maybe. If any of you like the Christmas Day action on ABC and ESPN.
No.
Well, can I say this?
Yes.
Golden State hosts Cleveland. Does that get you hard?
No.
They don't. If there's, let's see.
Maybe a little.
Okay, 15.
I think my favorite NBA Christmas thing was, I think, last year, were all those NBA ESPN Santa Claus ads where he just stole like other coaches' press conference things and played it. When it comes to like a marketing thing, that's like one of my 3 favorite marketing things.
I would assume that you love the Dr. Pepper guy. You love him.
Dr. Pepper guy.
Stacken, what are your thoughts?
You know what? I was really hoping that Golden State would play Philadelphia here.
Oh,
in the next 2 weeks, I'd say Philadelphia would give them their first loss. But since they don't play it until January 30th, I will say Golden State loses before then. I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this road trip here. I will say I will give their best chances of losing either December 5th at Toronto, December 11th at Boston, or the December 12th at Milwaukee. Otherwise, their next best chance of losing is not happening until Christmas Day.
Well, I would say I would get very excited about a 26-3 Golden State team playing a 21-6 Cleveland team. I think that'd be that would be something. Your 2 favorites for the finals now.
I just don't care about basketball until the playoffs. I mean, I follow it, but I ain't gonna watch it.
How big would this get?
I will actually be in San Diego over Christmas, so maybe I can give you guys California updates on Golden State for the 4 or 5 days I'm in there.
Are you helping the Chargers move to LA? Is that why you're down there?
Yes.
Yep.
They've asked
all by myself. Boxes. No driving. I'm literally just picking everything up and moving it one thing at a time. It is going to take a while.
Boxes in the U-Haul. No Mayflower. We're going U-Haul.
So it's going to be a lot of work for Charlie there. I mean, how big could this get? Like, if this, like, would this? I mean, if they go like 33, that'd be unbelievable. But how far do we got to get before they're like leading off the national news and every game is like, is this? Because I think ESPN picked up this game tonight, especially because of them. How soon before like 20-0, 25-0 before this? I think once you get past 20-0, then it starts becoming
sports in America love.
I'd say once.
We're breaking up.
I'd say once.
Round numbers 20
even numbers.
Oh.
I'd say once.
20 knows when it really picks up and is huge.
Which is very possible.
Once ISIS starts to die, go away, those stories, then maybe we'll start talking about Golden State. There are more pressing matters in the national news than Golden State's win streak.
Is there another Republican debate coming up that I missed?
I don't know. Trump will say something stupid, so it don't matter.
It's a 6-point game, 4 minutes left in the third. And Curry, obviously, your MVP right now.
Yes. I shouldn't have ever given it to Harden. I apologize. I rescinded my MVP vote to him last week and just gave it to Steph Curry.
Oh, good. Finally, Stacken Baseball Awards. I read your blog. You did not like that Jake Arrieta won.
No.
You wanted Greinke to win.
Yep, absolutely. He was the best pitcher for the entire year. Arrieta had the best second half we've maybe ever seen, at least in our lifetimes. Absolutely dominant. He certainly helped propel the Cubs to the postseason. I think MLB is a little carried away in giving the Cubs a complete sweep with Bryant and Madden and getting those two are much more deserving of the award than Arrieta. Grinke was phenomenal throughout the entire year. Arrieta just had a dominant 3 months, and it's like we forget. We put everything into a vacuum and just remember what happened there for 3 months instead of what happened the first 3.
Would you put Arrieta second?
I would. I would have put him above Clayton Kershaw, but I would not. Grinke was the best pitcher throughout the entire year. You are not giving your midseason awards. Websites will. ESPN, CBS Sports, MLB, they'll give that, but that's not the hardware that's taken home at the end of the day. It is truly at the end of the season, and Arrieta was not the best pitcher for the entire season.
I liked Arrieta to be the guy. I liked him to be the guy. Grinke 1.6 ERA, 1.63, somewhere around there.
Yep.
Arrieta very close at 1.77. His WHIP was 0.86. When we did our discussion, we said if you like the ERA, you like Grinke. If you like just pure dominance, strikeout-wise, you like Kershaw. And Arrieta's a little of both. He's got a great ERA, and he strikes out a guy in any. So
but how many strikeouts did Grinke have? He was
not a lot.
High up there.
Not a lot, I don't believe.
Okay, so maybe just more of the ground ball, the flyouts, and everything. It's still really difficult to do that for an entire stretch of the season. I don't necessarily have a huge problem with Arrieta winning it, but I do think that the voters centered in too much on the final 3 months and didn't take a step back and look at the season as a whole. And maybe they just wanted to say, hey, you know what, the Cubs listen, I thought the Cubs were dead after getting swept by the Phillies at home.
Yep.
And then Arrieta and company just kind of went on this magnificent run. But I would have given it to Grinke. Yeah.
Grinke had 200 strikeouts and 222 innings, which is really good. Arrieta 236 and 229, so had about 30 more strikeouts, in the same amount of innings. So, one strikeout per start basically. It's fairly close there. WHIP point. I mean, he led in WHIP, he led in ERA, he led in ERA plus. Grinke did so. I mean, it was a very tough vote, and I believe at the time, pre-All-Star break, All-Star break team, All-Star team, Arrieta wasn't even on the team, and I thought that was fucking ridiculous at the time. He was great last year, second half. He was unbelievable this year. If he wasn't the best pitcher, he was the second best pitcher.
Yep.
And every other award went the same. Harper, Chris Bryant, Josh Donaldson did win the MVP over Mike Trout.
Yep.
But there wasn't much.
I don't necessarily have a problem with that.
No.
Bryce Harper was clearly the best player in the NL. Texas's manager, I'd have to say,
Jeff Bannister.
Yep, Bannister. He was good enough to win it. I would have maybe given consideration to Houston's manager or possibly Ned Yost in Kansas City.
Paul Molitor was third, I think.
Yep, and Paul did a great job too. I mean, you could have gone with one of 4 or 5 choices in the AL, and everything would have been okay.
There you go. Thanksgiving's coming up. Where are you going?
Sticking around the Fargo-Moorhead area. We'll be in Moorhead for Thanksgiving Day and then heading to Marshall on Friday.
What do you have a specialty that you like? Say, I have to have this, a certain pie, a certain dish.
There has to be stuffing, and there has to be some good mashed potatoes and gravy, and I can mix a little corn in there.
Do you like to put those 3 all together, though, and then mix that all in?
Yep. That corn's got to go over the gravy, and the mashed potatoes, you mix it all together. I don't have room on my plate.
White meat, dark meat?
White meat. White meat all the way.
White meat all the way.
Yep.
Pies.
Not a pumpkin pie guy.
What the hell?
I know. I would be more of the apple, the caramel apple.
Caramel apple pie.
Yep, caramel apple pie is delicious.
Never been.
You got to go to Perkins, find Perkins, get some caramel apple pie. It's pretty good.
Okay.
Best pie I've ever had Probably, I haven't been to very many pie places. The best pie I've ever had, Al's Oasis in Chamberlain, South Dakota, or
Yep, Chamberlain.
Ocala or whatever.
Oklahoma.
Yep. Al's Oasis strawberry pie there, phenomenal.
Chamberlain, Oklahoma. That's the rumor on the street.
Yep.
They got hell of a pie there at the river.
Yes.
So, there you go.
Where will you be?
I'll be at home, Hartford, SD.
Oh, not CT.
Not CT. No, Hartford, Connecticut, by way of Hartford, South Dakota. Thanksgiving special, 1:45 lounge next week. If Notre Dame loses, we should basically know the playoff, I think. Just a couple of that Oklahoma winner and Iowa versus whoever Iowa loses to. So anything coming up on the podcast this week with the short week?
We are only doing one podcast. We'll be doing a football podcast, getting it out. I'm sure you'll be on there probably Tuesday night. We'll do it same. We had 3 this week: the college basketball podcast, the Jacks podcast, and the football podcast. So our thanks to you for helping us get it out. I must admit, I'm ready for college basketball. I'm kind of shifted in that mindset already. I'm so geared up for this season. I know UNC lost, rest in peace, number 1. But yeah, I did. How much of the tip-off marathon did you watch on Tuesday?
Not a whole lot. I love seeing those games at 5 a.m.
I do too.
Just brutal. If you had to work those games, that'd be brutal. Screw that drill day.
What time do you think the players have to get up in the morning to play those games?
If you're playing at 5 a.m., you probably got to get there by 3. That's ridiculous. Goddamn ridiculous.
What time's the pregame meal?
The pregame meal's at freaking 2 o'clock. Unbelievable. Just throws off your. If you want to, how I think the time change is bullshit. Going from one. I mean, this is a real goddamn time change.
Yeah.
It's a 9, 10 o'clock kickoff for us because we're 2-hour time zone difference. This is at fucking 3 in the morning. Okay, 5 in the morning. I mean, that's your body is not used to that.
Yep, and I will just say, top 2 analysts I think in sports. In my opinion, Jay Billis number 1, Barry Melrose 2.
I like Barry Melrose, good. Chris Collinsworth, obviously a close second for you.
You know what though? I'm warming up to him a little bit. He just looks smug, and I just can't stand it.
Oh, there you go. And with that,
he's probably better, should I say, than Troy Aikman or Phil Simms.
I know you like the primetime games for your favorite football team. Your 3 o'clock starts, your 7:30 starts.
Not good right now.
But I do not care for the number 1 team on Fox. So
yeah, I know.
I'm okay getting. Chris Myers. He's the 8th team there with Rondé Barber, but
I would take any team on CBS
as long as not. Thank God it's not Dick Stockton. That's all I ask for. But yeah, CBS is very good. And with that, we'll bid you adieu. 1:45 Sports Lounge, 2.5-hour edition. Replay it all night and all day.